It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Friday. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
I'm just reading this article here. This is pretty good news for me.
Yeah?
Smartphone use could reduce dementia risk in older adults. Yeah. And right here, I'm reading this from Fox News. Some have claimed, who are the some?
Yeah.
I love when they do that.
Right, yeah.
Some have claimed, they should say doctors.
Every great medical journal study starts with some believe.
Some have claimed that digital technology could negatively impact cognitive abilities, but researchers from Baylor University have discovered just the opposite. You can flip on the news on just about any day, and you'll see people talking about how technologies are harming us, the study's co-author said in a press release. People often use the terms brain drain and brain rot. Okay. And now digital dementia is an emerging phrase. Oh. As researchers, we wanted to know if this was true. The researchers analyzed past studies to determine an impact of technology on mental aging. Their findings, which were published in the journal Nature Human Behavior, suggest digital technologies actually preserve cognitive abilities.
All right.
So there you go. They analyzed more than 136 studies that included 400,000 adults with an average of 6 years of follow-up data. The team concluded that the use of digital technology correlates with a 58% lower risk of cognitive impairment, even after adjusting for gender, age, and education level.
Well, okay. I mean, it makes sense if you think about what you're doing on your smartphone. You're navigating the device, which in and of itself, sometimes can be frustrating, but you're actually navigating that device. You have to, your settings and everything, they all matter in that setting. And you've got to then navigate whatever site or app you're on. And the settings are separate than your device settings. So basically your brain is working, even though you may think, well, I'm just vegging out and, I don't know, reading or ordering something on the app or whatever it might be. It actually stands to reason as a layman that your brain is actually doing things. It's actually calculating as you go along with each move.
What they say is one of the first things that middle-aged and older adults were saying is that I'm so frustrated by this computer. This is hard to learn. That's actually a reflection of the cognitive challenge, which may be beneficial for the brain, even if it doesn't feel great in the moment.
They're exactly what I just said, so that backs it up. Yeah.
And I was waiting. Yeah. I didn't search for that sentence.
Yeah.
After you said it, it was the next sentence in the article.
Oh, okay. I haven't read the article yet, so I didn't see the story.
Technology can be cognitively challenging because it's always changing, forcing users to learn and adapt, the researchers noted. This exercises the brain and helps keep it sharp. Now, we decided to do this story after midnight in hopes that all of your kids are asleep and don't see that, and that's an excuse for them to be constantly on their smartphone instead of paying attention to you telling them to do the household chores.
Yeah. Lie to the kids and tell them quite the opposite.
Yes.
That's what I suggest.
Shh, keep it between us.
Yeah.
Lie to the kids.
Just lie to the kids.
Shh.
Yeah. Don't tell them. They'll get all uppity thinking they're better than you are.
All right, what kind of a day was it yesterday?
What kind of a day was it yesterday?
Here we go. All right.
I see these pictures tonight, and I think, boy, the party of women is really covering itself in glory tonight. I mean, I don't understand why the American left falls in love with the worst people. You've got a gang-banging, human-trafficking, wife-beating illegal alien, and a United States senator in a ludicrous display of energy is in El Salvador having Mai Tais and Yahtzee. I do not get it. I do not understand why the left takes on the heroes people like that. I don't get it.
I think I'm not allegedly in there somewhere. I'm just wondering.
He is a Democrat and United States senator.
I don't think this is an issue.
Now, we want to go back here just for a moment so you can see the moment it turns into 1,000 kids in the gymnasium all trying to get their opinion. And here we go. One more time. Here we go.
Why the left takes on the heroes people like that. I don't get it.
I think I'm not allegedly in there somewhere. I'm just wondering.
He is a Democrat and United States senator.
I don't think this is an issue.
What did you say it sounded like?
Yeah, that you just walked into the adoption center at Petco. Except when you do that, it's cute. That's not very cute to watch on CNN.
You know, we had said, I think yesterday, the day before, it's like, okay, not a lot of tariff talk and really just pounding on this.
Yeah.
And we asked the question, I wonder if they're extending this out because they see the polling is doing very well. I mean, the polling, for example, as we said on the economy, for the most part has not been good for the president. Doesn't matter what poll you look at. He's underwater, I believe, in every single poll that I've seen on, for example, inflation and the economy, keeping prices down. And the American public, as we know, I mean, we mentioned the Harry Enton from CNN doing the poll yesterday saying, 3% only, it was 2%. 2% each side. 2% don't regret their vote for Kamala, or regret their vote for Kamala. 2% regret their vote for Trump. And as Harry Enton said, that sort of dispels the narrative that Democrats are saying is that nobody on the other side supports Trump and everybody regrets it. As we have said, no, people go issue by issue. You look at it. Right. I have with the problems, again, we've talked about this. I agree with if somebody is engaged in unfair trading practices to go after them, but I'm not a tariff person. And there are things that I have said and you have said about the president on tariffs that we disagree with and we passionately disagree with. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't vote for him again, knowing what the binary choice is.
Right.
So, but when you look at the couple of polls yesterday, again, CNN was looking at the poll, and it was unbelievable how much the polls have changed on illegal immigration in just a month. 7-point move in just the last couple of days in the CNBC poll, and I think it was a CNN poll. I mean, it's like, I don't have it here in front of me, but it's in like the 56 to 37 or something like that in favor of deporting all illegal immigrants.
Right. Not just gang members.
Not gang members. And I went, well, what's that number right now?
Yeah.
Because that's been the focus. And so we looked at this and we said, this is a losing issue for the Democrats, and especially a losing issue as we find out more details about him. And I really wonder whether the White House told El Salvador, okay, after all this information, let Van Hollen in.
Right.
Let him go in because
let's see him do the selfie thing with with the gang member.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the whole thing because I don't know what drink it is, but it looks like they're having some type of exotic,
right,
a drink.
Right. Yeah.
He called it. Scott Jennings called it a Mai Tai.
Yeah. Bukele called it Margaritas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, they're sitting there, and it's just like, you cannot win that imagery.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, I can't believe he's doing this.
Right. Even if it's just water in a wine glass, because it was a wine, they were wine glasses that they were served in. It looks like they're sitting down at a fancy restaurant. And I'm shaking my head. And then the polling came out. Right.
And you see the movement. we had mentioned the Rasmussen poll. I didn't check yesterday, but the day before I did. I'll check it here in a little bit. But the Rasmussen poll we had talked about, which is more Republican leaning, had moved in the other direction.
Right.
It had gone from 56% favorability rating of the president from day one down to 47%. It was back up to 50.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee that's because of everything that's going on with this case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you can't win it. Then I guess it was the Maryland sheriff came out and said, 1,000% sure this guy was an MS-13.
Right.
Everything is not going in the direction. And when it doesn't go in the direction, instead of backing off, because I asked that question yesterday, are they backing off? And we had the one CNN person who did back off when Scott Jennings brought it up.
Right.
And she said, well, this isn't about one person. We went, there you go, she's backing off. And then we found the audio cuts from Schumer, and who else was it? Schumer and someone else, and another Democrat who were doubling down. Oh, Jamie Raskin, doubling down on it, saying he wasn't arrested.
Right.
Nobody said he was arrested. Or no,
he wasn't
convicted.
Right.
He wasn't convicted. Well, nobody was making that case that he was convicted.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, here we go, moving the goalpost. And it's just like, and then yesterday you see them continue to double down. We mentioned James Carville coming out and saying, I bet you he regrets it now. Because we talked about Serpent earlier this week coming out and saying the Democrats should just pound on this over and over again. It's a winning issue. And we went, you've been making some good points about the problems with the Democratic Party. For example, identity politics and, whatever.
Right.
How you've got to move away. And what did he call? I think he called David Hogg yesterday a twerp.
Yeah.
And he has to regret what he said, because he said that on Monday.
Right.
Before all the information came out, and I just went, I wonder if he regrets it now, because there's no way you can look at it politically and say, this is the side that we wish to be on.
Right. No, I'm with you. I think somebody on the inside said, you know what? Let Van Hollen sit down with him. Go ahead. Take lots of pictures.
Yep.
Because Bukele was posting those pictures.
I know.
So it's like, you want to do this? Okay. After everything Department of Homeland Security put out there, his criminal past, all of his behavior, the rift between he and his wife that showed a history of being abusive toward her, all of these things. Look, they're not going to change their radical views. They're not going to change where they are. Van Hollen was already there. He was already on the ground. He's going to be the hero. If you look at him in the pictures, he really believes he's the hero. The handshake was more holding hands than it was anything else. When Van Halen, Van Hollen.
That's what I got. Van Halen.
Yeah. When Van Hollen, which oddly enough, the real pronunciation of their last name is Von Hollen, but.
Well, we'll just change the name of Panama to El Salvador.
Exactly. And when he reached in and then did the handshake, he's doing the both hands handshake, and Van Hollen, and it's like you look like you're holding the guy's hand.
Well, that's what it looked like to me when I saw the still picture. I went, is he holding his hand?
That's what it looked like.
This is like horrible. When I woke up is when I saw all this at 10 o'clock, and I'm telling you, I wake up and it's like, I've got like 15 minutes before I got to jump in the shower and I got to process everything. And I know every single day it's going to be like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I haven't slept anywhere close to my alarm going off in I don't know how long because of that reason. The moment I just turn over and then all of a sudden I start thinking, what's on my phone? What's on my phone? I'll just take one look at, oh no. And then I'm up. So it's been relentless. But this is where the Democrats are. These are the hills they want to die on. They don't care about the polls. They think people are stupid. They think people are wrong. They think they're going to be the heroes. They want to be the next hero of their party to rise to the top, to be the leader of their party, get their name out there, do anything and everything that they can. They're all clawing their way to the top to be the leader of the radicals. That's their contest right now. and they're all in it to win it. And it's just insanity.
It just is. I mean, I woke up and to process in 15 minutes saying, okay, this is the Babylon Bee. There's no way he's holding his hand like that when I saw the still picture.
Well, right. I mean, seriously.
It was almost as if, you poor victim, we're here because you've been treated so unfairly.
I thought, is there a picture of them on the beach with their, with their pants rolled up and their shoes off, and they're just holding hands walking down the beach or something?
Well, the thing is
weird.
But the thing is, if I'm Van Hollen, I'm going to say, no, I don't want drinks out here.
Right.
Just water. Don't. By the way, this is understand. This is just if I'm the political consultant for Van Hollen.
Right.
Number one, I'd say don't go down there.
Right.
But if you're down there, and if I'm Van Hollen, the last thing I want to do is make it seem like we're having some fine cocktails and I'm compassionate because of the horrible way that you have been treated, and you need to come back to the United States because you're the kind of citizen that we need in this country. You're the type of immigrant and citizen who becomes a citizen that we need.
Yeah.
Because that's what it came across.
Right.
It didn't come across as this El Salvador prison, which is the most incredible prison of filth and the worst criminals. It came across as a white-collar prison.
Right.
With cocktails.
Exactly.
Are they serving cocktails in white-collar prisons now?
I don't know.
In the U.S.?
I don't know. Maybe crime does pay. You get drinks and three hot meals a day.
There's no self-awareness. He didn't. There's no self-awareness when he walked in there. Like you said, he actually thinks that's what the people of the United States want.
Yes.
That's the only explanation, because anybody with, kindergarten critical thinking skills,
right,
would say, "What are you, nuts?"
Right.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Cold weather takes a toll on trucks. As warmer weather rolls in, it's time to assess the impact winter has had on your vehicle to help avoid downtime and keep your rig rolling through to next winter. Spring temperature swings can cause your tire pressure to fluctuate. Start your spring maintenance routine by checking your tire pressure and make sure your tires are properly inflated based on the load you're hauling. Underinflated tires cause premature wear, reduced fuel economy, and premature tire failures. Take care of your tires now before you find yourself stranded roadside this spring.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, more great audio on this this debate about Garcia and Senator Van Hollen going to visit him. Just amazing. Plus, the latest polls, which are really, really interesting. SCOTUS agrees to hear a case on the Trump's plan to end birthright citizenship, so that is going to go to the Supreme Court, which is good because that needs to. That needs to go to the Supreme Court. Also, another survey out there shows majority of Americans want to expand energy resource production in Alaska. It's really interesting, and we'll get to that poll that shows, just amazing numbers. How just on illegal immigration, just it looks like in the last month, a complete sea change,
right?
Which does show that Americans recognize what the president has done,
right? Yeah,
and there's so much. Oh, the Fed chair, Trump, and the Fed chair saying if he tells him to step down, that he will.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah,
what a week! And plus all the stories we weren't able to get to because there's so many major stories. We'll get to all the things that we think are interesting for you because they're interesting for us.
Yeah, it's a crazy week. It was a crazy week. It's the craziness is going to continue through the weekend and into next week and the foreseeable future.
Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app, available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. Said it yesterday about Thursday, and I said Thursday was really just a microcosm of just everything that the Democrats have put on the front burner that the American public looks at and says, you people are just nuts. Mm-hmm. I guess now that we're at Friday, I can say this entire week is a little bit bigger of a microcosm of exactly the insanity of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
I mean, everything from the defense of an MS-13 gang member. By the way, you had that Maryland sheriff come out and say, here it is, right? Harford County, Maryland Sheriff Jeff Gaylor says 29-year-old Kilmar Garcia, an illegal alien who was deported to his native El Salvador by the Trump administration, is 1,000% a member of the violent MS-13 gang and a documented domestic abuser. Mm. And so every single day you've got something coming out. You saw the story from Tennessee.
Yeah.
About that he was pulled over at one time and the FBI said, let him go.
Yeah, right.
And the Biden FBI said,
right.
Make sure the Biden FBI said, let him go. And it's just like, wow. And, even though, this story has dominated, there's all the other stories that are also out there, on that the American public is just looking at the Democrats and going, you people are nuts. You know, the AOC, AOC out there, Bernie Sanders out there. You saw the amount that Bernie Sanders spent on private jets to get wherever he, wants to go to tell you.
Yeah, right.
That you're using too many resources. Mm-hmm. I just love that one.
Right.
But I want to get to just some of the polling here because I think it's just fascinating, this CNBC poll. President Donald Trump is seeing a +7 net approval on his policy of deporting illegal immigrants from the United States, a recent CNBC survey found. The All-American Economic Survey found that the public is strongly aligned with his handling of illegal immigration. A brief look at the survey results showed Trump seeing a +12 approval on the southern border and +7 on deporting illegal immigrants. That coincides with the recent CNN poll showing that most voters, 56%, support deporting all illegal immigrants, up from 38% who felt the same way in 2016. Can you imagine what it is? I know it was at like 70, 75% for criminal illegal immigrants. I wonder what that is. I'm sure there's a poll coming out on that here over the weekend.
Oh, there has to be.
From this week. There has to be. I'd poll that in a second.
Oh, man, yeah.
Because we're talking, there's a difference as we saw illegal immigration, the illegal immigrants who have committed a crime outside of crossing the border. I mean, it's way up there what the public wants.
Right.
But you see the majority, you see how that has increased 18 points since 2016. And why? Well, when people feel hopeless, they go, well, you're never going to solve the problem. Well, when you can solve the problem in like that, snap of the fingers, it's solved. The southern border is solved like that. When you realize that the Democrats have been pathologically lying for years, and all of them have been lying.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, okay. Not Quare.
Not Claire McCaskill?
No, no, Quare.
Cuellar.
Yeah,
I thought you said Claire.
No. Representative Cuellar in Texas.
Right.
It might be one or two that have said. And then when illegal immigrants started showing up, for example, in New York City,
right.
You have Mayor Adams come out, finally against what's going on, but not in Illinois. They're still doubling down. This is the greatest thing ever.
Oh yeah.
But when you see that polling, let's go to this is Harry Enton talking about it on CNN yesterday. Their polling. Here you go.
Deport all undocumented immigrants. Voters favoring the government trying to deport all 11 million of them. Back in 2016, just 38% of voters wanted the government to try to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants. Compared to where we are in 2025, 56%, the majority. The American people have come a long way on this issue, much closer to Donald Trump, and I think that's a big part of the reason why Americans are increasingly saying the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy, and why Donald Trump's net approval rating on that issue is in the positive.
Then let's go to, I want to get to the, here, I didn't know Jamel Hill was now a CNN panelist. Keep it up, CNN. Keep it up. Keep bringing the crazies. And here's, again, Scott Jennings and Jamel Hill. Here we go.
Supposed to be about what can you actually prove that someone has done?
I actually am not even all that worried about all the things that we have found out in the wake of the investigations into this guy. What I am worried about is that, and I'm going to grant you, he has a withholding order and he should not have gone to El Salvador.
And they admitted it was a mistake.
But even if you grant that, he has an adjudicated deportation order, and you have Democrat public officials falling all over themselves trying to get him back here without thinking through the next step, which is he's literally going to be deported somewhere else.
But not to
But my suspicion is when they bring him back, they're going to try to keep him here. That's the next part of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's, again, I don't know what it is they think they're going to win here. What they, the only thing they can claim victory on is we reversed something Trump did. But that only lasts for a short period of time because, as Jennings points out here, he's going to be deported again.
Well, and we brought up the other day, and I haven't seen anybody bring this up, like, for example, in CNN and Fox. I might have just missed it. But the reason that they didn't want him to go back to El Salvador, the reason the immigration judge agreed to that,
the withholding order,
the withholding order, was because he's a gang member.
He was going to be targeted by a rival gang.
Right. He's going to be targeted by a rival gang, which means, well, if you're just a person who's not, if you're just here illegally from El Salvador and you go back, well, you're not going to be targeted by a rival gang. The only reason you're going to be targeted by a rival gang is because you're a gang member.
Right. It's again, they keep running into their own brick walls, but if they believe it's just like these district judges, they believe if they just tap the brakes on the Trump administration that they get a win, but you don't. You score another loss politically for your own side. And I don't know how they don't see that. Imagine he's brought back here to the States. They're going to be on the tarmac cheering for him. That's how bizarre this is. But it's like the people that have been cheering for Luigi.
Yeah.
Someone accused of murder. They're not saying he was innocent.
No.
They're saying they're happy he did it. And that's what they want to, and the anti-Semitism that is very much alive in these protests on campuses that we've seen in recent years. And they're fighting now legally to be able to get away with their anti-Semitism on these campuses and their bigotry on these campuses.
I got to find the op-ed piece that was written about Columbia about this. It was an op-ed piece about somebody who's at Columbia who's being investigated because of their Catholic bias. Because of what they put on social media. Like, well, we're not going to suspend you, but we just want to make sure we don't get to this point. And in Columbia, and it was I'll find the article for you. And it was like, well, what did I put? Well, I put God said there's only two genders. And they wish to talk to that person about that. Well, that's the kind of stuff. Look, you can sit there and say, I can't believe Trump is going this far, as I've seen. I can't believe they're going this far. because he doesn't trust that they're going to do the right thing.
Right.
There's no indication. Anyone who has had any experience of remembering racism and anti-Semitism in this country, you realize that people that are racist don't change because the government says, okay, we're going to stop giving you money if you don't change.
Right.
Racist, the majority of racists, when you see it in this country, the reason racism is gone, you had some that finally realized the error of their ways. Mm-hmm. But one of the biggest reasons is new generations were born and those people died. Mm. People don't give up their racist philosophy. It's a comfort. Racism. Now, do I believe that people actually believe that they're genetically superior to someone else? No. Modern racism today is based on envy, jealousy, and victimhood. I'd be doing something if it wasn't for them. I could do something if it wasn't for them. They're getting a benefit that I don't get. That's what it's always about. You look at the white Aryan nations and how they recruited, young teenage boys. How did they get them? By saying, you've been screwed over. It's jealousy and envy and victimhood that they believe in, and that's what drives it all. Jews control the world, things like that. So it doesn't make any sense. There's no critical thinking involved in a racist thought. There's no critical thinking when it comes to identity politics, because all of us know, all of us know, we go through life. We don't judge people by skin color. We judge them when we meet them. Are they a good person? Mm-hmm. Are they cool? The vast majority of us in 2025, that's how we view it. It's how I was raised. Mm-hmm. And you know that the left knows that people in their everyday occurrence happens, because when you say, no, I'm pretty colorblind. What do you mean? You don't recognize that somebody has different color skin? Well, no, just like I can see a blonde-haired person or a brunette, and I realize there's no racism in me because logically and genetically, the brunette is smarter than the blonde.
Always. Yes. But that's just a fact.
But none of us judge that way. We judge, most of the time we judge when you open your mouth.
I'm going to be judged if my oldest daughter hears this program this morning. I'm going to be judged harshly.
But so it's Neanderthal thinking, and when people are Neanderthals and have that mindset of identity politics and racism, which now has been institutionalized and gone from generation to generation inside the Democrat Party, it's very hard to get rid of. You just don't say, okay, we put it on an order, and you guys are fine and going to do the right thing. They're not going to do the right thing.
Well, now they're proud of their anti-Semitism. They're proud of their bigotry. They're fighting for what they consider to be their legal right to be bigots and to limit people on campuses as a result of that. They want to discriminate. And they're fighting this tooth and nail. Who does that? Bigots.
Yep. 866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, I just was reading the headline. It said, Letitia James, Attorney General of New York, defends herself. It's like, no, she didn't. She simply said, it's bogus. You and I said, all you've got to do, this is very simple. All you've got to do is take your copy of your mortgage application, which I'm sure you kept, right? We all did, right?
I'm sure.
The copy of your mortgage application, and show that the evidence presented against you was false.
Right.
She hasn't done that.
Nope.
And did you hear any defense of her yesterday?
No. No, none. None. I mean, she's saying she's not going to defend herself in the media, basically. Well,
I would.
The first thing I would do, because the media, the liberal activist media, is going to be friendly in her favor. If you've got proof, if you're innocent of something that Trump has accused you of, and you're somebody that's a Democrat that has gone after Trump, and you're innocent of it, and you can prove it, then give that to the media. You've got an instant win in the media. And then, of course, it will win if you can prove your innocence in court.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah. Saw a couple of just memes and stuff about Easter, and I'm thinking to myself, when is it?
It's Sunday.
I know.
Today is Good Friday.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Been so in my own world about everything that's going on in the world, where I saw that, I went, when is Easter? And this was yesterday. Like, oh, it's a Sunday.
I did the same thing. In my parents' hometown, there's a place where I order flowers, have them delivered to Mom on every occasion, right? And I get this email. Don't forget Mom on Mother's Day. And it was just an ad, and I thought...
Did I miss it?
Did someone... When is it? Oh, my gosh. I was thinking I'd miss it.
Oh, my gosh. I know. It's just one day is running into the next. Oh, one thing I am going to do, and I think I mentioned it earlier this week. Thank you when I posted a picture of myself and my dad both on X and on Facebook about a week ago, and just hundreds and hundreds of responses and emails, and just thank you so much for all that. I will see Dad tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm only there till Sunday morning.
Yeah.
We have to work Sunday night. But I'm so used to flying with the direct flight, it's like taking a bus 100 miles now for me. But I'm going to, if Dad's up to it, I'm going to sit with him, and he'll love it. He'll love it. I'll read to him all the nice things that you said about my father. So
good.
Just want to let you know. And then I'll if you post it on X, or I may not be able to answer everybody, but when I read it to him, I'll be liking it, so you'll know I've read your message to my dad.
All right.
So just want to know,
because
it's so nice when people do that. I mean, really. I mean, it's, when my mom passed away 5 years ago. I mean, you were here, and you saw the response when I was gone for a couple of days, and the things that people said. And I remember the first thing I said when I came back was the whole thing that the left would always say: stop saying thoughts and prayers that it doesn't matter. It does matter.
Yeah,
it really does. I never had experienced anything like that, where you're experiencing grief, and people express what they think about the situation that you're in, and they give you best wishes. No, there's really something to it. I mean, it got me through. It took me, I don't know, a month or 2 months to respond to everybody. It was unbelievable. And so thank you so much. My dad will love it. He really, really will.
Good.
So, all right. What was the meme I saw yesterday? It wasn't really a meme. It was just it was a statement on one of the social media sites. I don't even know where I got it from. I copied it, though. This is just how insane it is. This is the insane argument some of the Democrats had this week. So, if we let our government deport and jail a non-citizen MS-13 gang member who beats his wife and has a court order to be deported, it's a slippery slope until they take your mom. Did I do that right?
Yeah, I mean, that about sums it up. That's where the left went on it.
They did. I just remembered I had that. I wanted to read that after what we talked about last hour.
Yeah.
And I found the article that I was looking for in the New York Post. And it was written by Daniel DiMartino. And he is a Manhattan Institute fellow and a PhD candidate in economics at Columbia University. And I guess this was taken from City Journal, which is the Manhattan Institute website with their all publications. It's a great conservative website if you've never read it. In fact, I became a big fan when Myron Magnet was the editor, I think from like 97 to 2008. In the early 90s, I read his book. It was one of the best books that I've ever read, really about liberalism and good intentions and what actually happens with it. It was called The Dream and the Nightmare, The 60s Legacy to the Underclass. And the funny thing is, when I read it, a couple of years later, I saw W read it. And he said it helped frame, his political opinions. And I went, oh, okay. Now, that I know some of you may say, well, Gary, that's not a good thing.
Well,
I bet you it's the parts that he agreed with, I agreed with, of that book, because it's a wonderful book. But so Daniel DiMartino belongs to that organization, and also, like I said, is goes to Columbia and is a PhD candidate in economics at Columbia. And he put an op-ed piece in they reprinted it from City Journal and put it in the New York Times or the New York Post. Columbia's anti-Semitism squad is coming down hard on Catholics like me. Columbia University has told the Trump administration that it's cracking down on anti-Semitic violence, intimidation, and winding down DEI. But behind closed doors, the university's Office of Institutional Equity, a new bureaucracy supposedly set up to address campus anti-Semitism, is targeting me for my Catholic faith. I recently received an email from the Office of Institutional Equity accusing me of conduct that could constitute discriminatory harassment. The message included no details, and when I asked for clarification, they didn't provide me any. But I'm familiar with how liberal institutions often operate, and I suspected that the matter concerned my public statements on social media. I was right. In a meeting this month with 3 officials from Columbia who identified themselves as investigators, equity investigators, and they've gotten rid of DEI, yeah, right. I was informed that I had been the subject of multiple complaints. They insisted that their goal wasn't to discipline me, but to make sure this doesn't escalate into a disciplinary outcome. This process, they assured me, was for my own benefit. How kind of them. Then they showed me screenshots of my social media post treating my public Catholic beliefs as if they were prohibited. I smiled when I saw them. I had nothing to regret. One post read, "God does not teach us that we can change our gender." Another referenced a conversation with the Catholic friar in which I questioned his use of pronouns and challenged whether he believes in transgenderism. In several posts, I celebrated how Republicans like Mike Pence and Nikki Haley supported bans on gender transition surgery for minors. And on and on and on. He goes, the investigators also brought up my January appearance on a podcast where I said that immigrants with facial tattoos who look like criminals should be screened more carefully. The example I gave was that of a child sex trafficker, apparently who fit the description, and whether they're gang symbols or whatever.
Right.
Columbia thinks this approach is discriminatory. I think most Americans would call it common sense. At the end of their presentation, I said, I'm totally open to, at some point, having said something I didn't believe in, but in all the cases you show me, I absolutely stand by what I said. Apart from the statements on immigration, which were defensible on their own terms, the rest were basic expressions of my Catholic faith, not hate or harassment. But to Columbia, voicing my Catholic faith was enough to make me the subject of an investigation. The investigators warned me, even though I have a First Amendment right, my post could be creating a hostile environment. My expressions of Catholic faith, hypothetically, this is what they said. They advised, hypothetically, if you have a trans classmate that sees this, could make someone feel unsafe even to walk on campus, they advised. I responded, quote, if someone is offended, that's not going to stop me from sharing what I believe. The overwhelming majority of people in this country agree with what I said. I just don't believe men can become women and women can become men. It is crazy to me that in 2025, there are people reporting me for an opinion that 90% of humans share. They insisted they weren't policing speech, but that's exactly what they were doing. One of the investigators told me that posting about the decline of Christianity could make other people of other religions feel excluded. They asked, can someone else share their opinion with you the way you do? I answered, yes. And I'm offended by many opinions, but that doesn't make them harassment towards me. Columbia's policy defines creating a hostile environment as any action that merely makes another person feel uncomfortable. It's impossible to apply such a vague and subjective standard fairly as Columbia has demonstrated by enforcing it selectively against me. At the end of the meeting, the investigators told me to think about this conversation before I post again. I replied, can you understand that that sounds threatening? The Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, which defends free speech rights on college campuses, has stepped in to support me. They have warned Columbia not to retaliate against me for expressing my protected views. The entire episode confirmed my worst fears. Columbia is willing to use its bureaucratic pressure to silence students who express Christian beliefs. That is not protecting students. It is excluding us. To all students who have been told that their faith or conservative views amount to hate speech, here's my advice. Don't back down. Your beliefs aren't dangerous. They're sacred. And they remain essential to the American experiment in free expression and self-government. No Ivy League bureaucracy can change that. So that's the whole point when people are saying, well, the government's monitoring them too much. Well, that's because we know they really don't want to get rid of anything that they're doing.
Right. They don't want to change this. They everything from DEI to discriminating, they want to keep this going. They do believe this is their battle of their lifetime. They believe this is what their generation is supposed to be doing. They call this justice.
Yeah,
which is absurd. But this is, again, who they are as individuals. This is not them going out of their way to, I don't know, walk on eggshells so others won't be offended. You know, as the case is here, they want you to believe that, oh, well, you might offend someone to the point of not being able to, believing they can't safely walk around campus. It was a simple opinion, not a threatening opinion at all. A simple opinion. And they welcome any opinion that opposes theirs, their beliefs. That's exactly what free speech is about, but not in the eyes of liberals. You can't say something, and where they're going ultimately with this is your religion is bigoted. Mm-hmm. They've been trying to kick the doors of churches down for a long, long time.
But anti-Semitism isn't.
It exactly.
I mean, that's just...
We can go after you, but you can't have beliefs taught from the Bible.
And backed by science, by the way.
Long-held, deeply held beliefs.
And backed by science.
And in this case,
biology.
When it comes to transgender, yes, it's backed by science. You can't have any of those. They've been going after Christians for a very, very long time. People of a number of faiths for a very, very long time. So the fact that they would get to this point was really inevitable. It was the next level of taking on those battles. You know, they want to be able to come into your church. You can't say this. Remember, what was it? The former mayor of Houston. Wanted transcripts.
Wow. Yep.
From all the churches.
Yep. I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me.
Saying.
Yeah, they wanted the because the whole goal was to take their tax exemption away from them. That was the goal of Democrats at that time.
Which is
take it away from churches.
One more level of chipping away at the stone of your religion. You can't have these beliefs within your own religion. We'll come at you, and we'll use everything we have to come at you.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
When freight markets threw their small fleet a curveball in 2024, Alpha Drivers Transportation's Alec Kostouris and his team got creative to add value.
How do we operate the trucks, capturing and leveraging our strengths in light of those markets? So, for example, somebody who's living off the load board is probably dying on the vine. We decided that we would be better off. First, it was with Joel and Travis running together, and now it's Travis and his brother Connor running together as a team. So we are able to provide a higher level service, get some premium to what I call the base rate in that regard. Another strategy has been we brought one of the trucks out to Colorado where we work with a dedicated customer. So it's more of quality of service than quantity of service.
Find plenty more advice from Overdrive Magazine's Truckers of the Month and Trucker of the Year winners at overdriveonline.com/PIB.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I just saw this one here. Oh, my. Oh, geez. What a week it's been. I mean, it's just every single week is just, it tops the week before. And it doesn't stop. You would think week after week, month after month, year after year, that you couldn't top the day before, and they do. This is from Mike Nellis, Democratic strategist and former Kamala Harris senior advisor to the campaign. They caved and let Van Hollen see Kilmar. Thank God. Keep up the pressure, and hopefully we can get them to bring him back to his wife and his kids. And it shows the picture of Van Hollen. Looks like he's holding his hand.
Yeah, right.
And I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know how this whole happened, but you and I said the administration, the Trump administration, has to be gleeful that this is happening. You see the polls on illegal immigration, and they're looking at this going, this is great.
They think this is a win.
Yeah.
And they think it will be reunited, or this will culminate, this will end with him at a backyard barbecue in Maryland with a bunch of people standing around celebrating.
Right. Now, think about this. He posted this 4 hours ago. So
Yeah.
everything is known for over a day
Yeah.
of what he is and that he shouldn't be in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, get him together, bring him back to his wife and his kids.
Right.
Democrats are nuts.
Right. They think this is a win.
I know.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Carley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. Thanks so much for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Matt, they're going crazy over in Great Britain after the Supreme Court ruled that biological men are biological men and biological women are biological women.
Yep.
Oh, my gosh. And you and I were going through one audio, and we're not sure yet if there's cursing in it. We can't tell with their accents. So we're delaying playing the one piece of audio where a transgender activist was on with an anchor and just walked right off. So
yeah.
I want to ask you questions. Well, I feel uncomfortable. I feel unsafe here or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is where we get to, and we always go back to the Josh Hawley back and forth with the Berkeley professor when he was asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, well, these are offensive. You're transphobic. Well, what do you mean? And she said, well, do you believe a man can get pregnant? He goes, well, of course not. Well, then you're transphobic.
Yeah.
You know, what does that mean? Well, this line of questioning is, do you understand that transgenders have one of the highest rates of suicide? Well, you're saying that if I ask questions? And I mean, it was just bizarre. And when we broke it down to what the argument is, it's the most bizarre argument. When you break it down completely, and the argument is you can't ask questions about the radical transgender movement, because if you do, just ask questions. Please tell me, what is this all about?
Mm-hmm.
That transgenders, and this comes from the radical transgender movement. This is not our argument. This is their argument.
Right.
That they are so sensitive and have such great mental challenges that if you ask questions in order to get a better understanding about, all right, what's your point, that they may commit suicide. And so or attempt suicide. Attempt or commit suicide, one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't even ask any questions. And if you ask any questions, they feel threatened.
Yeah.
That violence is coming their way. They're afraid to be in the same room with you. And that's what happened in this particular case, where the transgender activist walked out of the studio. Though you can hear the mic just flying around. It's like, I'm just going to ask you questions. You can't ask questions. But the argument is, this is the most bizarre argument that you could possibly imagine. And this comes from the radical transgender movement.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot question anything. You can't ask a question to find out, well, what is your narrative? Tell us what you believe. No, you can't do that. Why? Because they will be so offended by you just asking questions that they may attempt suicide. And therefore, the solution is that if somebody is a child, ensure that a child can make the decision to cut off their own genitals.
Right. just don't question it
Right.
at all. That is the solution to what they point out as a massive mental health crisis. The solution is to not have the discussion.
Yes.
Perfectly healthy.
Right. You just have to accept what they say, and you can't question anything, even out of pure curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean by this? Okay, you asked me if men can get pregnant, and I said no. And you said, well, that's transphobic. How? Men can't get pregnant.
Right.
What's your argument? Well, the argument is that a man who believes they're a woman are a biological woman and can get pregnant. Well, no, they can't get pregnant. Doesn't matter. That's impossible. A man can't get pregnant.
Mm.
And, well, we can't argue the point, so we're just going to call you transphobic. And you understand that because of your outrageous and controversial statement that men can't get pregnant, somebody may commit suicide over that.
Right.
And so it's your fault for asking any questions.
Right.
Well, then what you're saying is these people are completely mentally unstable. That's your argument. So if that's your argument, I would think that you would look for counseling and whatever professional help you could get these people if you're truly compassionate, instead of saying the solution is allowing children to make the decision if they have these feelings to cut off their genitals.
Well, because they, as it was presented, the argument made it sound like even therapy would be bad. Because in therapy, you're going to have discussions.
You're going to have to ask questions, right? Therapy. You can't have therapy. You just must accept the mental challenges and or illness. And I'm saying and or because they're the ones making the argument. We're just trying to figure out what the argument is.
Right.
And trying to get it, down to its base point. And we can't get to that point because they won't let us.
Right.
And so their answer to you is, no, you must be completely and totally confused, and your confused state shows your acceptance towards me, and now I won't commit suicide. Just stay confused.
Right.
What?
We won't address what is, by their argument, a massive, massive mental health crisis.
Exactly.
Say nothing.
But if you said, so you're saying that they have there's a mental health crisis here that needs to be solved? No, that's transphobic to say that. That's your argument.
You're saying that.
You're saying
You're
that.
the one who said it. So are you a transphobe? Yeah, I would have. I wouldn't have done what Holly did. I would have ran them in circles in that little ring, like karate, because it's an insane argument.
Well, it is.
And I would have run circles around them. They'd be punching themselves in their own argument time after time because it's ludicrous.
I did see, let me just find some of the audio here. I'm going to get, I think it was Pam Bondi was, because the question, they think they're smart. I mean, the question, well, the governor says there's only 2 transgender athletes, so should this be an issue? Here's Pam Bondi on this yesterday, the Attorney General. Here we go.
So Maine's governor yesterday said there were maybe at most 2 trans athletes in Maine schools right now. I just was hoping you could talk a little bit about the sort of amount of federal resources that you're putting into this and why that's worth it given the small impact in Maine.
I haven't heard Janet Mills' comment. Governor Mills said it's only a couple trans athletes. Well, I think those are boys who identify as girls wanting to beat girls in girls' sports. Well, if one young woman is in jeopardy. One, that's enough for us to be standing up here. One, no boy will be undressing in a girl's locker room. No boy will be walking in a woman's restroom. And no boy, when we're finished with this, will be beating young girls in sports. These young women many of them have trained, since you were in elementary school for your sport? Riley, when did you start swimming? 4 years old. They have trained their entire lives. Some of them have lost scholarships. They have lost regionals. They have lost state because of boys. I don't care if it's one. I don't care if it's two. I don't care if it's 100. It's going to stop, and it's going to stop in every single state.
Well, is that, because she's fighting for rights. She's fighting, Pam Bondi, like a lot of people, to protect Title IX.
Here's a couple of high school athletes from Maine talking about it after this is the press conference yesterday. Here we go.
My first experience was when I was 13 years old. I was going to change for gym, and I walked into the locker room, and there was a biological male there. From that point on, my junior year, I competed in Nordic skiing and lost to a biological male numerous of times. I am fighting this fight for generations to come. And the fact that our governor can look the women of our state in the eyes and say, I'm not going to fight for you, is heartbreaking, and it's betrayal, like Riley said. I just want to thank all these women standing behind me and President Trump for fighting for us, because even though my own governor isn't fighting for me, I know there are people out there fighting for me.
So I compete in soccer and indoor track and outdoor track. And like was mentioned previously today, I had to watch at the Maine Class B State Indoor Track Championship as my close friend and my teammate and other female competitors lost the state championship to a biological male. And this was heartbreaking for me to have to watch. And Riley said that it's betrayal, and that's what it is. It is the job of our elected officials to protect our young female athletes, and they have failed to do that. We walk into sports expecting to have a level playing field, and to walk into the state championship to see a biological male there and to lose to a biological male, that's betrayal. And so I am extremely grateful to AG Bondi for standing up for us when our elected officials aren't doing that. And on behalf of the girl athletes in Maine, I just want to say thank you all, and I look forward to having a level playing field back after this fight. So thank you.
When I see this, I know it makes you feel good and me feel good, because we've been talking about this for a decade.
Yeah.
And even, we'll have got to say this, we would get communications from people that listen to our show that would say, look, guys, this isn't going anywhere.
Right.
Stop it. It's a whole slippery slope
This
argument.
isn't going to be a thing.
It's not going to be a thing. And as we saw what happened. And I remember you and I many times saying, women, we're two guys talking about it. Women have to come out and defend women. And we said, we understand the intimidation, the bullying, the threats that exist out there, but it's not going to change unless women come forward.
Yeah.
One of the most rewarding moments for you and I was when Riley Gaines came out the one time and used the M word and talked about the misogyny of the radical transgender movement, which the entire Democratic Party now promotes, the misogyny.
Yep. Yeah.
The hatred of women. It's really it's mind-boggling. But to see high school students now coming out and college students, young women coming out and saying this is wrong, it really does my heart good. It really, when I see this, when I hear it, I'm like, yeah. And it was like the day that you and I sat here and just smiled when Riley Gaines said, nobody talks about the misogyny. And we're like, yeah, get them.
Right. Well, and that's it, because we had been talking about it, and it's going to require women standing up for their rights. And thanks to, I think, Riley Gaines and a number of women now that have done that, you're going to see that more and more. And, when we first started, the case was a set of parents that were afraid because their daughter was intimidated and afraid because a man was in the girls' restroom. And they had labeled, this was out in California, they had labeled the daughter a bigot.
And we also have to recognize, for example, J.K. Rowling and Martina Navratilova, who were on the forefront of this when no other women were really speaking about it.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Because they were.
Yep.
They took a lot of the first arrows that came with it.
Yeah. And still are.
And still are.
866-90
Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's our Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. And then the Maine governor comes out to comment on the Pam Bondi with all the Maine high school students, the women behind her, and Riley Gaines there, talking about the radical transgender movement because of the lawsuit being filed. And, of course, the Maine governor says this is just a distraction because of other things that Trump doesn't want you to know about. Here it is.
So to me, these kinds of actions and press conferences are a diversionary tactic. From what? From what the real issues are facing families across Maine, families across the United States.
Not a good argument.
No.
Not a good. You're not going to win that argument.
Well, again, they believe they're arguing with the right. They believe their debate is with Republicans or Trump.
It's
the parents, those families that you just heard the governor mention are the ones you're working against.
Yeah.
And you don't even realize that.
They still don't understand who they're arguing with.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here this morning, as always.
Thank you.
Here we go. What a week. And I told you when I woke up, I'm like I am every single day. Woke up and where are the Dow futures? What's going on? What's going on? I'm checking all over the place. I can't find them. What's going on? Oh, it's Good Friday.
Yeah, Good Friday.
Stock market is closed.
Yeah.
All right. President Trump, let her rip today. You got 3 days.
Well, I was going to say, all that means is pretty much more uncertainty.
Yeah.
And you can't see that uncertainty.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting. So it was a down week completely. Every day was down on the Dow, right? I don't think the S&P it wasn't, but I thought on the
I don't know if it was every day. I'd have to go back and look.
So I think there were 3 days in a row before yesterday, and it was down yesterday 500 something.
Yeah.
I was reading that. I mean, that's what I read.
Yeah, it was down 527 yesterday.
Yeah. So.
And the NASDAQ had a bad week. NVIDIA was a big part of that the other day, NVIDIA. And essentially now having to get a special license for one of their chips, the chip that they sell in China. And that didn't do too well. Based on that development, I don't know where it goes. I mean, I think if you look long term, a company like NVIDIA, that stock is going to come back. The rise of NVIDIA was insane over the last couple of years. And so there are going to be setbacks, and I think in something like that when you see that. And I think also it's unknown how long that will be in play. My concern or my question would be, if I were at NVIDIA as a decision maker, because their H20 chip is the one they sell in China. That's the one where they have to get apply for the license to do that, to sell it in China. Well, all right. So my question is, how concerned are you when it comes to intellectual property rights as a chip maker? That has to be a great concern. I don't, maybe they've addressed that at some point, NVIDIA has, and I didn't see it, but that would be my greatest concern for China overall in the long term.
Well, it was interesting to see yesterday the president saying that, that we're getting rich on tariff money. Oh man, it's just and he was talking about $3 billion a day since the tariff started, average of $250 million a day, not $3 billion.
Right. So,
and $3 billion is what they would hope to get, because that would get you the figure of what, roughly $700 billion.
Yeah.
Which is the number that they talked about, but right now it's 250 because they've raised a total of, and this goes back to when they first started the tariffs from day one.
Right, back to January 20th.
Right.
Is what they measured.
So an average of $21 billion so far is
total, and an average of $250 million per day.
Right. And when it might go up, because one of the things that people did was, you saw that China's exports were up 12% in March to beat the tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a lot of American companies buying inventory, extra inventory, to hopefully get them through all of it. But really, this week it's been, except for, remember when he said the 257% or whatever, but really nothing's happened much on the tariff issues this week.
Right. Yeah, there hasn't been much movement at all.
And there hasn't been over-the-top rhetoric.
No. A few jabs, verbal jabs back and forth with President Xi in China, but it's not, nothing in terms of what the next move might be. I mean, really,
it's just some peasant talk.
Yeah. The last, I guess, significant position, or I don't know, it wasn't even a position, it was stating that he was confident that there would be a deal, and that's what Trump said, that was over a week ago, that there would be something done with China. But we haven't seen that. So far, we haven't seen that. There's, I've seen analysts out there saying, well, that tells me they're working a deal behind the scenes, and they don't want to say anything to mess that up. Or, I thought to myself, or nothing is going on, right? You're in a stalemate.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Well, as you and I said, we're working on a deal. Well, the whole thing depends on what the deal is.
Mm-hmm.
The deal could be anything from absolute free trade, depending on what country that would be with that we would totally agree with, to not absolutely free trade with countries, if you look at China, where they believe intellectual property is being stolen. The optimism that he's going to get China to buy as many products from the United States as we buy from China. They talked about, because number one, when you talk about buying something like that, when you say, okay, we're going to buy, well, who's making the decision? The government's making the decision? It's not the free market. Government saying, we will buy these things from you. Well, who is we? Is it companies?
Right.
Because what they found out, it was in Argentina. When Argentina did that, these countries said, okay, we'll buy from you, but they were buying things that ended up being more expensive, so they simply tacked on extra tariffs to what they were selling you back. So it was really just tariffed both ways again, because you're telling someone they have to buy something, not that they're willing to buy something.
Right. Yeah, it all comes down to the demand.
And so the fact of whether it's a deal, it's what the deal is. And I don't know right now, I don't know what the president wants in a deal.
Yeah.
I don't know if he wants equal trade between every single country. I don't know that. I don't know if he wants to have tariffs on our side but not their side, because all these things have been said by him or people in his administration. That the tariffs should be on our side, that we should have a tariff nation. That's what Navarro believes. So I don't know what the president wants in a deal. If it's a deal that brings in more free trade, like what's the difference? What is the difference of the deal going to be with Canada and Mexico?
Right.
How is that going to differ? We went through it already. We went through that a few years back. NAFTA is horrible. USMCA, the greatest trade deal ever. From President Trump in his first term to communicating to us now that USMCA is the worst trade deal ever that he did.
Right.
So I don't know what he wants from Canada.
No, I haven't heard that.
And when you look at the fact that we have except for the oil makes it so we have a trade deficit with Canada. Otherwise, we would have a trade surplus. But that oil, Trump demanded that whatever the energy company is of Alberta get back and build this Keystone Pipeline and get that Canadian oil in here. Well, I don't know what he wants with Canada.
Right.
I can't tell you, and nobody can tell you what he wants from Canada. Nobody can tell you what they're actually negotiating, because they've been all over the place in what they want from tariffs.
Well, and the idea...
Or in trade.
Yeah.
I don't know what they want.
We don't even know what exemptions would look like, because we're told, well, there won't be any exemptions, and then the next day, well, except for the exemptions that we've already exempted.
Yeah.
So we don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah.
So when I see, as we call them, the always Trumpers, which are the absolute supporters of Trump no matter what. I mean, he does no wrong ever. And we understand that these are people that, want those clicks.
Right.
And you see them on social media on a consistent basis. And it's like, I don't know what he wants. Trump's going to get the deal done. What's the deal?
Right.
I can make lots of deals. Is it the deal that I want? And the last deal he wanted, this is the last deal he wanted, was equal trade with every single country. Equal trade or a trade surplus with the United States, which is impossible. So anything else that he comes with that is compromising what his own belief and Navarro's belief and probably Lutnick's belief are. That's what they wanted to do when they first got into office.
Right.
So
well, now with Bessent in charge, I haven't heard anything from Bessent either.
I mean, it could be a free trade deal that I say, fine. Did we have to go through everything to get to that point? And I use as an example NAFTA and USMCA. I don't know what he wants from Canada. I mean, I know what he said he wants. So he wants a trade surplus. We have one.
Yeah.
We don't when you take the oil, but he wants the oil. He wants the cheap oil because it's cheaper. Because Canada, sorry, your Canadian government are idiots. They won't let you export oil except to the United States, really. So the United States has been taking it from Alberta, buying it, but they buy it at a discount because you've got a big supply of it that you can't get rid of on either coast.
Right.
To send elsewhere. And Trump's like, well, we want that discounted oil. Well, you got the surplus and you got the discounted oil. So what do you want from Canada?
Yeah. I think that's what basically everybody is waiting on.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, again, where do you go with, the biggest set of tariffs, obviously, is China. And they send us the most stuff of any other nation. They import to the U.S. greater than any other nation.
We have the biggest trade deficit. The most trade is between us and Canada.
Yeah, well, we have, the biggest deficit.
Right.
But in terms of the number of items, it's China. It's a big, which is, if you look at the overall impact on the consumer, that's something that is going to be felt for as long as it's in play.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot, but politically, you win on China. My question is, does that start to change when prices start to kick in? If those are, again, if we hold China's feet to the fire, which you and I support, you have to get intellectual property rights straightened. Because, again, I think, on a number of things, it wasn't just cell phones. It's a number of things. I have to, I would ask the chip makers, how great is your concern when it comes to China and intellectual property rights? Because right now, chips, especially chips that will be serving the AI industry, that's going to be it. That's the next. We've kind of plateaued in technology, relatively speaking, but the biggest boom in innovation is going to be there. And there's no way that China won't take advantage of that. It just remains to be seen exactly how far they're willing to go. And I don't know how you pressure them into complying with intellectual property rights. That kind of pressure has to come not just from the U.S., all of the other world trade partners that China has have to be in unison on that one, and we're not there yet.
Then the thing that they're floating, who's going to do a trade deal with you if you plan on putting a shipping tax with everything coming in?
Right.
That isn't a part of the negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was pointed out that now they're throwing out, no matter what deal we make, there's going to be a shipping tax.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes into all the details of the shipping tax and then different import taxes outside of tariffs that they also want.
Right.
Well, countries are going to look at that. Countries read what they're promoting
mm-hmm.
or even floating about as a trial balloon and saying, well, we're not going to do a trade deal. You're going to do this over here.
Right.
So you can talk to a lot of people. You and I have been involved in negotiations that have gone on for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
Just with simple things for us in our business
mm-hmm.
that have gone way over a year. It's like, okay.
Well, and if it's ever changing on the trade front, then those other trade partners don't know where they stand because they also trade with China. So if you're changing on a daily basis and you don't have that solid list of criteria or goals or both, then everybody else in the trade game is wondering, well, okay, what do you want us to do? How do we fit in here? China's looking to, and it's already started, establishing trade routes that don't include the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's going to be part of the response. You want to do that to put the fear in the U.S. and the consumer into the businesses in the U.S. that we're going to do this without you. Well, long term, they really can't.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up. It's no longer climate change. It's
temporarily displaced weather.
It's not climate change. It's global boiling.
Oh, okay. We've gone back to that, have we?
Yes.
The whole oceans are going to boil over thing?
Well, it's interesting because John Stossel had a column on it. You know, he's covered it for the longest time, but it basically mirrors what we've always said. Every major disaster projection made by anybody on the left of what global warming, global boiling, climate change is going to do, every one of them has never come to be.
Right.
Not one.
Right.
And we've always asked the question, if you're promoting something with a disaster scenario as your conclusion, and you do it long enough, those dates of when and years of when these things are going to happen come, and then they go.
Yeah.
And then you can look back, you say, yeah, but 10 years ago you said this.
Right.
And we've always asked the question, if you are promoting something and you set a date for it to happen or a year for it to happen and it never happens, and every time you do that, it doesn't happen, when should people question your credibility?
Right. When it's happened repeatedly.
Yeah.
With the left. In 1989. By the year 2000, if you work inside the Beltway in D.C., you're going to have to take a gondola to work. And, of course, that didn't happen.
Well, that's because they all work from home.
That's right. They take their gondola to the store. Or to the bar.
Right.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, things have, you think about it, overall, things have gone pretty quiet on the whole climate change front.
Yeah.
You know, because the public isn't concerned about it, as we all know.
Right.
Now we're talking about nuclear power, which I never thought was going to happen. Now you're seeing the federal mandates are gone. Now you're seeing with the expense of it, people want cheaper electricity. They want to use natural gas. They want to use nuclear. And John Stossel had this article in the New York Post. I hadn't checked the New York Post in a while. I just happened, I wanted to go to the New York Post to see how they covered the entire Garcia thing. It was just
right.
Van Hollen and Garcia drinking margaritas. That's the lead headline.
Right.
Like, oh my God. It's like,
that's what Bukele posted when he shared the photos. That's what he wrote. So
I saw them and went, wow.
Yeah.
And so there's just a bunch of different other articles I just picked up on. I'm like, oh, that's a good article. That's a good article. Well, that's a good one there. Wow, look at this one. And I hadn't checked the New York Post in a couple of days. Climate zealots are always wrong, but never own up to their nonsense. And it's so funny. It says, end fossil fuels now. What did you have? What did you have this week? Murder? What was it?
Which one? What?
When do we want murder?
The chant?
Yeah. What was it?
Well, because it came from the band Circle Jerks.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
At Coachella.
Yeah, that's right.
And the lead singer saying we need an army of Luigis.
Right.
And so if you're going to be an activist in that regard, what's your chant? Your chant has to be this. What do we want? Murder!
When do we want it? Now!
I mean,
Now Coachella continues this weekend. Have they come out and denounced that kind of murder talk?
I haven't seen anything.
So we don't believe it's appropriate
to be promoting
murder. But Stossel writes, I guess the United Nations Secretary General didn't think his hyping of global warming risks brought him enough attention. So now he says the era of global boiling has arrived.
Oh.
Global boiling? Give me a break. I had to do it in the way Stossel would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the climate's warming, but we can deal with that. What annoys me is politicians, activists, and media pushing hysterical myths.
Mm-hmm.
Myth 1, the Arctic will soon be ice-free. It could already be ice-free by the summer of 2030.
Mm-hmm.
Shrieks a DW News report. Doomsday Glacier is melting faster than scientists thought, adds the BBC. Earth's biggest cities are at risk. Nonsense. It's not happening at nearly the catastrophic pace that they claim, said Heartland Institute fellow Leanna Lukin. But the media show dramatic images of melting and missing ice. No ice. There's all these walruses laying out on a stony beach. It's because it's summertime. In the winter, the ice comes right back.
Funny how that works.
As far as ice disappearing in winter, too, compared to the amount of ice that's in the Arctic, it's like a grain of sand, so minuscule compared to the amount of ice that's there, it doesn't even show up on a trend shot if you if you plot it. But zealots push hysteria. In 2009, Al Gore, while collecting a Nobel Prize, said there was a 75% chance that the entire North Polar ice cap during some of the summer months would be completely ice-free within 5 to 7 years. In just 5 to 7 years, oh no! Well, 7 years have passed. In fact, 16 years have passed. The ice cap has plenty of ice, even in the summer. And nobody calls him on it.
Oh.
Yes, we did. Myth number 2. Polar bears are going extinct. Polar bears look cute, so environmental groups use them in ads to sucker you into donating money.
But back in the day, to drink Coca-Cola.
You're true. You're right. Yes,
Yeah.
I remember those ads.
Mm-hmm.
But polar bear populations have increased. In the 1960s, 17 to 19,000 was the highest of the 3 scientific estimates of the polar bear population. Today, there are about 26,000 polar bears. Yet the Environmental Defense Fund collected almost $250 million from gullible donors running ads saying your support can help the Environmental Defense Fund save the polar bears. The Environmental Defense Fund has not agreed to my interview request.
Oh.
I understand why. I would call their advertising sleazy. Absolutely, says the Heritage Foundation. The data is right there. It's not hard to find out that polar bears are fine. Okay, maybe the polar bears aren't going extinct, but we might starve.
Oh, the skinny polar bear picture, remember?
Yeah, that's right. MSNBC shrieks. Climate change could create a massive global food shortage. President Barack Obama, our changing climate is already making it more difficult to produce food. There is no claim less true, says the Heritage Foundation. Food production worldwide has skyrocketed. She's right, and the data is there for everyone to see. Agriculture output sets record highs year after year. In fact, the extra carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases probably increases food production. We inject CO2 into greenhouses for a reason, says the Heritage Foundation. It helps to fertilize plants for faster and better growth. As the climate has warmed, the world experienced the biggest drop in hunger and malnutrition ever.
Oh. Funny.
Still, when food prices rise, Media idiots will blame climate change. The New York Times claimed, quote, devastation that climate change had wrought caused a rise in coffee prices. But global coffee production has increased 82% since the 1990s.
Oh.
The Times focused on a brief decline in coffee production in Honduras. But since the 90s, coffee production there has rose more than 200%. They never apologize, I note. They never say, oh, we got this wrong. No, says a Heritage Foundation, even if they did have a retraction, the damage was already done. Alarmist media and environmental groups never apologize. When the doom doesn't happen, they just move on to the next scare. Saw another article written yesterday about the scary tour, the paranoid tour of AOC and Bernie Sanders on everything.
Yeah.
Everything is the worst ever, the worst ever, the worst ever, the worst ever. It's the worst ever. It's the worst ever.
Yeah.
Wow. This is the worst ever. Worst ever? All of
Who wants to go to that rally? You know? They're on tour. These are rallies. You know, say what you will about the Trump rallies, but generally speaking,
people are happy.
The sentiment is positive. This is what we want to do to make things great again. They're on this miserable tour. Who's opening? Liz Cheney?
What's the mood of the crowd when you say, murder, now?
Right. Well, AOC was one of those who said, in response to the murder of Brian Thompson, the healthcare CEO, she said that people feel like it's an act of violence if they get their claims denied.
Yeah. Therefore, it's just, and that was her justifying.
That's her justifying it.
Yep.
It's bizarre. Seriously, who's going to these things? Who in the world is going to these things?
Okay, I'm looking at this weekend for Coachella? Yeah, weekend 2.
Okay.
Lady Gaga.
All right.
My God, am I out of the
You don't recognize any of the other names, right?
I don't recognize Mustard. Indo Warehouse, High Tech, Miss Elliott, Speed, iDress.
Miss Elliott or Missy Elliott?
Missy Elliott.
Okay.
Yeah. You know
that
who
one.
she is?
That one I recognize.
Okay.
Yeah.
No idea. Coco and Breezy. I'm trying to find who's going to say something stupid. I don't care about the music they play. It's like, who's going to say something stupid? Yeah, Lady Gaga, Missy Elliott, Benson Boone, Marina, Three Sacred Souls, Gabe Reel. That's on the Coachella stage.
Okay.
Then they have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stages. Wow.
That's a lot of stages.
Okay, that's Friday. Okay. Saturday. Coachella stage? 9 a.m.
9
9
a.m.?
That can't be 9 a.m. No, I know it's 9 p.m. Okay, I'm reading it in reverse. 9 p.m.
Right. Okay.
Green Day.
Did they play last week?
I don't know. Were they somewhere else? Were they over in Europe when they went nuts?
I don't know.
Wow. Didn't even know they were still together. Jimmy Eat World.
Wow. Okay.
They had the album, what was it, that came out right in 2001. I remember they had to change their name because it was Bleed American was the name of the album.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, a good album. I saw a DVD of them live. They sucked. But okay, Ed Sheeran at one of the stages.
Okay.
Really don't recognize anybody else at all.
Yeah.
And then Sunday, Post Malone.
Okay.
He really doesn't get political, though, does he? I've never really seen him get political.
Not really.
Wow. Wow. Craft work.
Yeah.
Fun. Autobahn. Crap.
Yeah.
And, who's back? The circle jerks.
Okay. So it looks like people they come back, basically play both weekends.
Yeah. Did Lady Gaga play last weekend? I don't know.
I didn't see that in the news. You would think that would make the news. You know, they've got it live on their Coachella's YouTube.
Yeah.
They're streaming these things. Each stage is streamed live.
Yeah, I saw that on when I went, I think it was Sunday, because I was at the golf tournament when I got back. It said Coachella, live right here. Click here. I didn't click.
Well, it came up in the queue, and I thought to myself, well, wait a minute. Aren't people paying like a lot of money for the passes, for the tickets? But you could watch it for free on YouTube? Are they streaming the whole thing? I don't know if that's the case. Maybe they're only streaming, parts of it. I don't know. I'm really not curious enough to click on it.
Yeah, neither.
I really don't care. But I'm just thinking of the business model of, well, wait a minute. We can stay home and watch it for free on YouTube.
I just want to see what stupid thing Billy Joe Armstrong's going to say. Because it's almost guaranteed he's going to say something stupid or TDS or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's good to get the oldies bands out there, though.
Well, when you start getting old, you have to remain relevant. That's the goal.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So even though it's going to be a little cool this weekend where I go, and it's warming up around the rest of the country because it's getting into springtime, no climate change hysteria. But it's going to come back.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to come back.
Yeah.
You see the radical transgender hysteria coming back. You see the let's protect the worst illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, when I read that thing on X, where that senior advisor to Kamala Harris in the campaign came out and said, see, we're winning here. We've won. They've caved.
Yeah.
Van Hollen was able to meet with Garcia.
They actually think it's a win.
They think it's a win. Whoa.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We said that yesterday, and this would have been for Thursday's show, actually, which would have been Wednesday, because Thursday's show starts at midnight, so it's talking about the day before, was a microcosm of everything that's wrong with the Democratic Party all in one day. And if you look at this week, it's the same thing. And without all the insanity coming out from the Democrats, whether it's trying to defend a MS-13 gang member and promote the fact that we hope he can get home to the United States, to his family. It's like, that's not going to happen. that he'll get to stay here, which is not going to happen.
No.
Even if he comes back, the fact that whatever happened, and I want the story of what happened. Why did El Salvador say, okay, Senator Van Hollen, you can come on in? And we think, I would not be surprised if the president gave us okay and said, all right, now that we've got all the facts here and we know exactly what's going on and they can't defend it, let's now set up a love fest between Van Hollen and an MS-13 gang member.
Right.
I think that's what they were thinking.
Well, Bukele's the one that shared most of the photos that you see in the New York Post.
Then the headlines, drinking margaritas with, my God, it's like, and the Democrats are like, we're winning. See, they caved on this. We're winning.
Yeah.
It's like, and then you see the polls, the way the polls are moving on illegal immigration. It's just like,
they really believe they're winning.
It's really incredible. But with all this stuff going on, everything going on, then you've got in the DNC, and you and I laughed like crazy when we found out that the DNC elected David Hogg as the vice chair.
Yeah.
And you had Democrats going, this might not be a good idea. James Carville was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, he was on News Nation, Carville. He says David Hogg is a contemptible little twerp.
Wow.
Here we go. All right. Are you ready?
Okay.
Somebody sued David Hogg. He's an officer of the Democratic National Committee. He is the vice chairman of the Democratic National Committee, and he's running against other Democrats. I would like to know, and you went to law school, does he have a fiduciary duty toward Democrats? If you work for News Nation, you can't promote CNN. That's if you work for somebody else. You have a fiduciary duty to your employer, which anybody can understand. He's being paid to run against other Democrats. I think it's an outrage. I don't know if I have standing, but I might give the DNC $10 and sue him. He's a contemptible little twerp, if you ask me.
Sue his ass, Jim. I'll have you on the show to talk about it.
Yeah, I might.
Now, what he's talking about with all the insanity this week, a microcosm of everything that is wrong with the Democratic Party, encapsulated actually into one day, Wednesday, but we'll just say it's Friday, so we'll say the entire week, which has been pure insanity. And it came out that David Hogg is forming a group within the DNC to challenge to primary Democrats who aren't radical enough.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what are you talking about? They're all radical.
Yeah. Right.
They're all radical in some way. When you look at the radical transgender movement, you had 2 people in the Senate, right? That was it.
Yeah, right.
Excuse me, 2 people in the House.
In the House.
On the radical transgender movement bill that came out that voted with Republicans. Everybody else? No, sorry.
In the Senate, you have Fetterman, at least on the issue of anti-Semitism.
Right.
He stands with Israel, and he has, in fact, called out the anti-Semites. And so, we counted, I think we got it to a solid count of 3.
3. That aren't, they're insane on some of the issues.
Right.
But they're not insane on every issue. And the standard for Democrats is, no, you've got to be insane on every issue if you're going to be a Democrat today. You've got to be a misogynist. You've got to be a racist and promote identity politics and DEI.
That's what the twerps think.
You've got to support the worst MS-13 gang members and ensure whatever we can do to get them citizenship in the United States. It's just...
It's the last time anybody used the word twerp. Contemptible little twerp.
And so with all this going on, the Democratic Party is saying, all right, and that what James Carville's saying is, and by the way, it doesn't apply, I don't believe.
In terms of a viable lawsuit?
The DNC is nonprofit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
just like the RNC.
Right.
And
the fiduciary responsibility he's referring to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because he's saying they're not fulfilling their fiduciary responsibility.
Right.
Because they are because he wishes to take the money to primary Democrats.
And if you give your money to them, by the way, you give their money to them. But it's, it doesn't matter which party you're talking to or talking about. You're not going to, it's, you did that on your own. If they're not doing what you want them to do, stop giving them your money.
But contemptible little twerp. I mean, it's just like
funny.
In the headline, James Carville calls David Hogg's plan to primary ineffective Dems the most insane thing he has ever heard.
Well, I bet it's not.
They will spend at least $20 million. Mm-hmm. Leaders We Deserve, a political organization led by Hogg, announced Wednesday that they will spend $20 million to help elect younger Democrats. The effort includes supporting primary challengers to House Democrats in safe seats that Hogg argues are asleep at the wheel because they're not radical enough. So the Democratic Party, you look at all the 80-20 issues that they're losing on.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, we've got to have more 80-20 issues.
Right.
We have to.
Right.
It's just hilarious. I'm sorry.
Well, and they just keep going with the whole Garcia thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Van Hollen thinks he's a hero. They think they're heroes. They think they're winning this.
I know.
What are you thinking? Look at the polls. But they don't really care about the constituents. What they care about is the idea of undoing anything that Trump is doing. That's their goal. Undo it. Trump did it. We're going to come in and right the wrong, even though the polls are against them.
Can I say that to you? I can say it up to me. I'm a contemptible little twerp.
Yeah.
I like the way that sounds. I mean, there's a harshness to the
twerp.
The contemptible.
Well, the twerp kind of snaps, though. That's something, again, we haven't heard it in about 50 years. The word. I'm not sure the last time I heard it.
Contemptible little twerp.
Yeah, twerp.
Twerp.
Contemptible little twerp. Oh, he wanted to say something else. Yeah.
I just love it.
Well, but remember, though, I mean, Hogg, he's there because the party selected him to be there.
Yeah.
Remember they went through the whole thing in the day or two before on the DEI front.
Right.
They went through and listed the whole DEI set of rules and still elected two white guys.
Oh my.
Yeah, because they don't actually mean it.
Meanwhile, my favorite story of the day, among other favorite stories,
other than the other favorite stories,
former President Joe Biden's attempt to bill $300,000 per speaking appearances is finding few takers, the New York Post has learned.
Told you.
As some of his own former aides say, it's time for the 82-year-old to leave the spotlight for good.
Mm-hmm.
After reminiscing about, quote, colored kids, end of quote, Tuesday at his first public address since leaving office.
Oh.
A source familiar with Biden's faltering speaking career said that the 46th president's standard pitch is $300,000, 25% below Barack Obama's $400,000 asking price upon leaving office in 2017. It's unclear how negotiable Biden's rate is.
I love that line.
If travel is required, a private jet and expenses for 5 staffers is also expected for Biden. who has been repped since early February by the Creative Artist Agency. CAA is having trouble booking gigs, which is not surprising. What about Harris?
We asked.
What about Harris?
We asked this, I think, in the last week or so, for both of them. You know, these events quite often have a salad, but do you want a word salad when it comes to Harris? And when it comes to Biden, if he's speaking at your engagement and, you know, he starts saying all these awkward things like he did the other day, you want that to fall on your brand?
No.
You don't want your brand mentioned in that news story over and over again. You're the ones that paid him to be there.
Sometimes I love the way the New York Post writes, though.
Yeah. Oh, I love
Stephen
it.
Nelson.
Yeah.
A second source said they heard people close to Biden floating an even higher desired fee, despite the ex-commander-in-chief having a history of peddling glaring inaccuracies before his political career came to a crashing end when he delivered incoherent debate remarks that prompted a Democrat mutiny. Just love the way they write.
Yeah.
Biden's use of the word, quote, colored to refer, end of quote, to refer to black people while speaking at a disability conference in Chicago earlier in the week has some former aides hoping he will spend more time at his beach home. It was hard to watch, said one former White House official. It felt like seeing someone you care about start to regress.
Yeah.
Start to regress.
Yeah.
We just wanted him to enjoy retirement like other presidents. The only reason you say that, because if it's, I don't care what his age is. If he promotes your party and does it effectively, that's what you want. They don't want him there because he cannot promote the party effectively.
No.
That's why they kicked him out.
Look, we said it. Gosh, this goes back years now. Hunter was a liability to Joe Biden, but there was no greater liability to Joe Biden than Joe Biden. And he's a liability to the party, which is why he wasn't on the ticket in the end in 24.
Yeah. That's why they kicked him out.
Yep.
Said, you're done. Get out of here.
Yeah, he's a liability. You can't have him out in public anymore. So where would the demand be? Why would anybody pay him $300,000? And what is that speech? 45 minutes, maybe? You're going to have him up there longer than 20 minutes? Do you really want that? We were asking this before the debate implosion.
You know, come to think about it, though. You know, when you and I were talking last week, we have no interest in politics. Would be interesting, you know, just to run for the House for 2 years. I don't care if I accomplish anything. I mean, just shoot off my mouth like I do here. And then after 2 years, I can go and give speeches for, I'll do it for $100,000.
I don't know what a member of the House gets. I don't know what that would be.
Yeah, but I'm a celebrity because I would AOC it.
Oh, okay.
I would just say the most ridiculous things.
Yeah. You should run in your district then.
That's right. If I say totally insane things, I might be able to beat Jasmine Crockett.
Right.
Oh, I saw she was back yesterday.
Really? Okay.
Saying something stupid again.
Yeah,
I mean,
well.
it's like it's. Yeah, in case you don't know, Jasmine Crockett is my congressperson by 3 blocks because of redistricting in Texas. You know, I do get more of those emails like, so she's from Texas?
Yeah.
Well, she's an insane liberal. She's from Texas. Well, yeah, we have them here.
Right.
Maybe not as many as California, Illinois, New York, but they're still here. Now, the problem is she's my congressperson.
Well, that's the primary problem. Yeah. Well, Al Green and his cane of anger. Both from Texas.
Every time you say Al Green, I think of the singer.
I know.
I mean, I just cannot get...
Yeah, I know.
But you know, him with his cane reminds me, and I mentioned this because it was after Val Kilmer died, the oligarch's son
Mm.
who
Oh,
had
yeah.
who had the cane in
Yeah.
The Saint.
Right.
Every time you say Al Green and his cane, I think of the oligarch in the movie The Saint.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, we have-
contemptible little twerp, you.
We have our share of insanity in the great state of Texas. It does happen.
Yeah, it does. Yep.
Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. At a roadside inspection, inspectors may ask to see supporting documents. A supporting document is a document generated or received by a motor carrier in the normal course of business that can be used by law enforcement to verify a driver's logs. These documents can include bills of lading, itineraries, schedules, or equivalent documents that indicate the origin and destination of each trip. They can also include dispatch or trip records, expense receipts related to on-duty/not driving periods, including receipts for meals, lodging, and fuel, electronic mobile communication transmitted through a fleet management system, and payroll records, settlement sheets, or equivalent documents that indicate payment to a driver. Drivers using paper logs must also keep toll receipts. Supporting documents must contain the driver's name, carrier-assigned identification number or vehicle unit number that can be linked to the driver, the date, the name of the nearest city, town, or village, and the time. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So you think anything's going to come of Jerome Powell and Trump going back and forth?
I don't know.
I mean, I know that Trump took it as an attack because Powell said the reason he's not going to do anything is because of the tariffs.
Right.
So I knew Trump was going to, I think we both knew Trump was going to respond.
Oh, yeah,
to that.
now you set it off. Yeah, I don't know. Clearly, I think I've had no doubt since the beginning, Trump talked about it before January 20th, that he wanted Powell to be gone. I would like Powell to be gone, but I don't know how that's going to play out.
Yeah, his term ends in 26.
Mm-hmm.
So think about a year from now.
Yeah.
But, but Trump wants low rates whether the economy is good or bad.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Which we disagree with what the United States has done, because to us that's manipulating the currency by keeping the interest rate extremely low.
Eventually you're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Easter weekend. We're here. Good Friday. I saw that the 10 Commandments is free on YouTube.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Saw it yesterday. And,
all right.
And I was doing work around the house and outside a lot, so I was coming back in and out. It's over 3 hours long. What a great movie, though. I mean,
I remember growing up when it would come on Saturday evening. It was with all the commercials. I don't know. What did it start at 4 p.m.?
No,
I think it was about 6.
It was
Central.
It ran like 6 or 7 o'clock. Yeah, because it was 7 o'clock Eastern time.
Yeah,
ran till like midnight.
Yeah,
11:30 midnight with the commercials in it.
Yeah, but it was a stop down event. It was the one thing you absolutely, if you were going to do anything for any kind of activity other than going to church and the Easter egg hunt or anything like that, it had to include that movie.
It ran last Saturday on the networks.
Did it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And normally it's a Saturday night. I think but it's something. My dad's really confined to a wheelchair now, so we'll probably watch it. I thought, okay, what can I get everybody to agree to watch when I get there? And I'll be flying in. I get in like 11 o'clock and go to the hotel, and then I'll be picking up my great nephew in the morning, then heading over. They're probably, I'll be there from probably 11 a.m. till about 8 p.m. and then back to the hotel, and then on a flight back here in Sunday morning. Weather cooperating. It looks like it will be just a couple of thunderstorms here or there, so it's not going to be a problem. But I was thinking about doing that. But you think about what a great movie it was. I mean, the acting, the actors that were in it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Edward G. Robinson. Mm-hmm. Man, what an evil SOB character he played.
Yeah. Yeah, and the effects were far ahead of their time.
Yeah. The flame, the parting of the Red Sea.
Mm-hmm.
For the time when that came out, imagine seeing that in the theater for the first time.
Right.
Especially when they're walking through it.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty modern.
Yeah.
When you look at it. But the movie itself, I mean, such great acting. What they had to do, I mean, the cinematography that they got, and then, the things, they, some of the cities, they actually built them, smaller scale, but they built those cities.
Yeah.
And the cast that they had for that.
Yeah, it was definitely an all-star event.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'll say, though, that the, Yul Brynner, playing Ramses, I mean, he a little stubborn. I probably would have I would have surrendered sooner. Probably when hail came down that had fire. You've convinced me.
You've got my attention.
Yeah, you convinced me at that point. I'm like, okay, if I'm worshiping false gods, and hail starts falling, that puts fire all over the place, or the firstborn of all Egyptians die, and they die all around me. At that point, I'm probably convinced too.
Yeah, you got my attention.
Yeah, which of course is what changed Ramsey's mind, in the film. But before that, I would have changed my mind.
Sure.
Yeah, the hail. I always thought the hail did me in. That was it.
Right.
But what a great, what a great movie it is, and it's. I was scanning through it. I didn't have a time to watch the thing, but I've watched it in the past. And you just think about all the different acts in it going through it. I mean, the time period, they could never make a movie like that today that people would watch. It would be that long. It's over 3 hours.
Yeah. I mean, they did
unbelievable.
They did the Lord of the Rings. Those were each a little over 3 hours long.
Were they really?
Yeah. The trilogy was.
Oh. Which is why I've never watched one Lord of the Rings. Okay, that makes sense.
If they show the whole thing, it goes for the whole weekend, basically, all three of them. Wow. Yeah, and they put those out at Christmas time. Each one of them came out at Christmas time, so they were a Christmas movie outing for me and my kids when they were young. So we would, shove all the leftovers into the fridge and head to the theater on Christmas Day, and we went and watched those. And that's a long time for a movie.
Yeah, very long time for a movie.
You've really got to have something special. For me, it was an outing with my kids, so that's all I needed. But if you're going to tell a story, I mean, what greater story than the Ten Commandments? If you're going to tell a story like that, You have to do it right. That had to be the mindset. That had to be the mindset in the approach of this. Okay, if we touch this, if we take this story, we can't just do it halfway. It really has to be done in a way that is overly impressive and makes a statement. And they did. For their time, there were no, in terms of the cast, you couldn't find a better lineup. And in terms of the special effects and how it was done.
Well, and, Cecil B. DeMille, who produced it, directed it, and narrated it.
Mm-hmm.
And when he comes out, and a lot of people have missed it, the introduction that he gives talking about it.
Right.
And then the narration itself.
Mm-hmm.
You could not have found a more perfect narrator.
No.
His voice is perfect for that.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you why.
Yeah.
Maybe because it is you're telling the story of the Ten Commandments, and his voice, not being sacrilegious here, it comes across as godlike.
Well, it has to be, it really had to be authoritative in a way, though. It had to be that, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, you can't approach telling this story without being all in. Hollywood today would not even be able to get it done. Forget about the length. They wouldn't, with all the DEI stuff, they wouldn't even approach this. They wouldn't even know where to start. It would have to be, they would have to change it for whatever reason. They would have to, make it something different.
And, DeMille, this was his second shot at it because he had a silent film, The Ten Commandments, in 1923.
Right.
And they first announced they were going to do it in 1952.
Yeah.
4 screenwriters, 3 art directors, 5 costume designers.
Well, today you'd have hundreds.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you're right. Filmed on location in Egypt, in the Sinai Peninsula.
Mm-hmm.
Featuring one of the largest exterior sets ever created for a motion picture. The interior sets were, though, in Paramount's Hollywood sound stages, though.
Mm-hmm.
But, wow, it was at the time the most expensive film ever made.
Wow.
And then he died in 1959. He was, but yeah, the costumes, everything. You look at it and you buy into it.
Yeah.
Because it's so well done, you buy into it.
It was the proper setting. It was the proper everything, really. For its time, I don't think you would have gotten anything better.
And even today, now that they've, remastered it in high definition and it's a beautiful film. Absolutely
it really is.
beautiful. I mean, the
It really is.
cinematography just always just blows me away.
Yeah.
And the number of actors, of great actors. Yes, Mrs. Munster was in it. Yvonne DiCarlo was in it. John Derrick.
Yeah.
Joshua,
Right.
Bo Derrick's eventual husband.
Right.
Yeah, what a great movie. I hope I actually get the time with my dad. As I said, with my dad this weekend, I want to read all the nice things that all of our listeners said about my dad when I put the picture up for his 99th birthday. So he's, like I said, he's slowing down. I talked to him yesterday, though. He was great. Great. His mind was just great. We went through a ton of different topics. Political, you name it.
Yeah.
He wanted to know stuff about the show and, how do you do this and what do you do here and what's the his engineering mind was really working. So he's got great days and he has not so great days, but he's really hanging in there, and he will appreciate when I read what so many of our great listeners, so many of you wrote to him. They will appreciate it. And like I said, you'll see it when I like your comment. It means I've read it to my dad. I thought it's like, what can I do that's a little bit personal? It's going to be tough for me to answer every single one. But if I tell everybody, if I like it,
right,
then you'll know that I read it, which I will like every one of them because I'm going to try to do it. But if not this time, I'm back in a couple of weeks anyway. I'll finish it, because he gets tired, easily. But
right.
99 years old, man. Talk about being blessed.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
So is the White House going to do any of the kind of Biden Easter celebrations?
The Easter egg roll is on Monday. It's always Easter Monday. And remember, what was that in 20? That would have been, was that 23 or 22 when the Easter Bunny and Al Roker basically cornered then President Biden and was asking him about running again.
I know.
The scoop.
It's like the Easter Bunny was.
The scoop comes from the Easter Bunny and Al Roker. They get the scoop.
And see, where I grew up, Monday is Dingus Day, the Polish holiday.
Okay. All right.
When I was a steel worker, when I worked at Worthington Compressors in South Buffalo, we got Dingus Day off. It was in the Polish section of South Buffalo.
All right.
We didn't get Easter off. In the union contract, you got Dingus Day off. Of course,
Okay.
Easter was on a Sunday.
Right.
So they probably meant it for, I don't know, maybe they didn't mean it for Easter. Maybe it was for Dingus Day. When men walk around with pussy willows and you're supposed to tap a woman on it, and it means you want her. I'm not making
I bet that's outdated.
I don't know.
Just thinking.
No, they still have one of the biggest. I know it's true. I've seen it on Wikipedia. Buffalo has one of the biggest Dingus Day celebrations on the planet.
Dingus for the rest of us?
Yes. Dingus
right.
for us, Butkus for you.
Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today because our show ends in an hour. And after the hour is up, we record the entire show as the show's going on, and it becomes our podcast. So if you missed any part of the show, you can listen on our Red Eye Radio app. Mm-hmm. And if you can't, for some reason, listen to one of our great radio stations while the show is being broadcast live, we also stream live on the app all 5 hours. Cecil B. DeMille. Did I say Cecil or Cecil before? I meant Cecil if I said Cecil.
I don't remember.
I can't remember either. I just, after I go, did I accidentally say Cecil or I've always heard it pronounced Cecil B. DeMille, the great director of the Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
So
I think all is forgiven. I think it'll be fine.
Nobody really. The movie was done in 1956. Nobody really cares. All right, so I did find an article coming up following the top of the hour.
Yeah.
Because we're looking for the whole Letitia James scandal, mortgage fraud scandal. And we're looking for any Democrats that would defend her. I found this article. Ready for the headline?
Okay.
Okay, here's a headline.
Here it is.
Hang on, I just lost it here. Trump administration seeks revenge on Letitia James with criminal referral. Well, how did they back that up that it's revenge? Because it sounds like I would take that as, okay, it was a bogus prosecution of Trump. He's trying to do a bogus prosecution on her, right?
Yeah, right.
No.
No?
No. In fact, they don't actually defend her at all in the article.
Oh.
Coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.